Hello knitters, Faye Lynn from Strands Knitting Studio in San Clemente, California, and today I have what's on my needles. I have some classes and I have another tutorial. Stay tuned. Okay, starting with, it's not on my needles, it's off my needles. It's finally off my needles. So here's the Festival of Stitches. Gonna be upside down. This is the Festival of Stitches. It's a shawl. It's a like you do little different sections all the way through. And this side, if you'll notice, like this is brown and then white, and this side is over here is the white and then the brown, which I think is very cool. And I'm gonna put some tassels. I'm gonna put tassel there in the middle and on the two ends. So I got enough yarn to do that. So this is the thing I was thinking of doing. A knit along or a class. So this is like a blanket class because you're going to learn all these different kinds of stitches, but it's just a much smaller commitment and smaller time to get through it. So if you've got an idea of how to do this, so I can also just do this class like once a month or once every 6 weeks maybe. So it gives people plenty of time to get through the sections. Yeah, so I'm probably going to end up doing that. But if you've got another idea, comment down below. If you're on YouTube, comment down below because I would love an idea that I haven't thought of. But it'll be a class pretty quick here, and yeah, and I'll let you know how it's going to be set up. So I did want to show you because I make mistakes just like everybody else. And so when I was knitting the cable, it's really funny, but when I was knitting the cable thing, I was a couple rows above this stitch right here. So this right here, this little stitch right here, that's a drop stitch right there. So I've pinned it because I was already like up and I'm like, okay. So anytime it's something like this, you'll just feed it sort of through where it needs to go, and then you're going to just tack it. And you can either tack it with thread that matches. If you've got yarn, you could go ahead and duplicate stitch because you're going to push this to the back. And so you're going to sort of duplicate stitch a little bit back here to catch it and keep it going. So, but I didn't just do it on the white one. I also did it on the brown one. So, you know, equal opportunity screw ups. It's exactly the same thing, exactly the same mistake. So there's the stitch right there. That's the stitch I dropped. So I'm going to be fixing those pretty quick as I do my little tassels, and I'll fix those two things up. But this is Festival of Stitches. It was a lot of fun to do. I really enjoyed the different techniques that you learn. And yeah, so stay tuned for that one. All right, and then Saturday, March 29 from 12 to 2 is the sock class. This is to learn how to knit a sock. We use the baby sock so we can get down to the heel because this is the part everybody needs to learn. This isn't that hard. It's this. So that way in class we will get down to this part. So you will have at least gone through this once. And like I say, you need to go through this at least 3 or 4 times, like 2 pairs of socks or something, to really get your brain to, you know, figure out what's really going on here. And I even suggest that you knit all the socks down to right before, like if you're gonna do a pair, you know, 3 more or something, knit them all down right before you do the heel, and then just do the heel on this one, do the heel on this one, do the heel on this one, do the heel on this one. That's the fastest way to get this in your brain and understand what's happening and be comfortable with doing this technique. Because the first time your brain just can't even begin to figure this out. So, so you have to give it a little bit of time. You have to give it a little bit of time to practice, and then, but it will get it. It will get it. And then, so anyways, that's my suggestion. If you really want to learn and you want to learn this fast, you just knit a bunch of them down to the heel and then just sit and do heels. And then this is one type of heel. There's also toe up socks with a short row heel. There's many constructions. So, but top down or toe up is usually the two big decisions on what fits your foot. So after you do this and you get this really good, then you go to the toe up sock and you learn how to do a short row heel, and then you do that. And that's why socks are so fun, because there's so much to learn on such a small little thing. Then you do that, and then you can decide which one fits my foot better, because I'm not sure what the difference in the foot. I think a high arch is one of the issues people have, and I think this the heel with the gusset is the one that fits that one better, but it's your foot. So I would try both and sort of get them down. And then once I decide on one, like I love doing toe-up socks, but these fit my foot better. But I love doing toe-up socks. So yeah. So anyways, that's how you would sort of go about, figuring out and playing with socks, because this is also like an infinite, forever thing that you could work through and just figure out is socks. So that class is Saturday, March 29th from 12 to 2. And okay, it's bunny season. Our bunny isn't even out to play yet, so I can't show you that our bunny here in the store, but I'll put here's one bunny. So bunny season. So, and I've got 2 bunny patterns this year. So I've got, this is the one we do all the time, and now this is the other one that's it's been out of a while, but it's also there. So you're knitting a square. So everybody comes to class with their square knitted up, and then it's how we sew this up that makes them bunnies. So in class, we are sewing and knitting ears. The one has to knit ears. This one doesn't have to knit ears. So and if you made all this one, then you can come and make this one. If you haven't made any, you can make your choice, because as I said, the knitting part is just a square, and it's all knit stitches. It's all knit stitches, and it's a square. So yeah, so then come in and get some yarn, make sure your needles, you're going to go down needle size, because this needs to be not super tight, but tighter than, so that you don't have stuffing showing. And even then it's like not that bad. So like, let's say on a worsted weight, you're going to use a size 8. I'd go down to like a size 6. On a DK, I'd go to a size 6, unless you're a tight knitter. So just as you're knitting your square, you don't want it to be really like thick and not drapey, like that firm, really firm. You don't want it quite that firm, because it's harder to get it molded the way we want it to mold. So you want it to have some drape to it and be sort of relaxed. You just don't want big holes between your stitches, because your needle's too big. All right. So, but don't knit it so that it's just this really dense knit thing. You don't want that. So anyways, I'll put more stuff in the emailer on what you need to be doing for this. But you will need to come to class with a square done. All right, because there's no way you're going to knit a square in 2 hours, and then there's no way you can knit a square and sew it up in 2 hours. It's just not going to happen. So that class is Sunday, April 6th from 10 to 12. And the last is we got our first of our summer yarns just came in. So this is a 63% linen and 37% cotton, and it's got a sort of mottled look to it. It's really pretty. Very, very pretty. Okay, so this is linen. So when you pick up linen, it feels like string. It is not soft and cuddly like alpaca or anything like that. It feels like string. Knitting with it feels like string, but the magic happens when you wash and dry it. So once you've got it knitted up and you wash it and you dry it, and it just now becomes this totally drapey, beautiful thing. So just be aware that that's what this is. And that's why so you're going to, and when you finish knitting the thing, it's not going to feel that soft either. It's still going to feel pretty rigid. So you do have to wash it and dry it, and you can wash it and dry it. And then it's like a heaven. So I think we got like 8 colors in this. I'm looking for a pattern right now for this. This is Junto, Araucania yarn, and I'm looking for a pattern right now. I'm not quite sure what I'm going to do. It's going to be some kind of a summer top, obviously, but I'm not quite sure what I'm going to do yet. So stay tuned for that one. Okay, and then next I have a tutorial. So this is how to start your pattern. So this is taking a pattern and marking it up and doing things you need to do to start knitting on a pattern. You need to prepare your pattern so that you're understanding where you're going and all that kind of good stuff. So this was a very simple vest pattern that I sewed. So there's not a ton of weird things in it that you'd mark up, but this gives you the idea of what you do, just starting with a basic pattern and how to mark it up. So that's next. Okay, so I'm going to show you what you need to do to set up your pattern to knit a project. I would do this definitely for sweaters. Absolutely. You need to read what the construction is. You need to sort of read any hints that they give you. You need to sort of look through the pattern and see if there's new techniques that you don't know and stuff like that, and get yourself ready for it. So this is a basic vest pattern that some of my clients have been knitting lately. And so the first thing is up here in this little box, it sort of gives you all the really important information. So like your sizes, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 sizes here. And then the measurement, approximate finished chest measurement. Now, measurements are, that's finished. What it says, it's a finished measurement. That means it's going to be the actual measurement of the top, not you. Yeah, but if it says this is the size to fit a 45-inch bust, then that's your measurement that they're going on, but you don't know unless they've told you how much bigger it is than 45 inches. So going by the finished projects is really the way to go, because that's a cleaner measurement than your bust or hips or anything. So this is also where I say find something that fits the way you want this to fit. I say this all the time, and we'll get the measurements off of that for the bust and everything, and then we'll go to the pattern and see which of the sizes fit that measurement, because you know that measurement works for you because you've worn it, and then we can make sure this fits very similar to the one that you're saying you like. So there's your measurements here, sizes, there's your measurements, and there are lengths. That's what this particular one has. They're all different. There's no standardization to how this happens. But once you pick a size, so we're going to pick a large. So we're going to pick a large, and as you see, there's a stack of numbers. See, there's a stack of numbers. So anytime you have to do a certain, like knit so many stitches, there's going to be a stack of numbers, because you have to knit different stitch counts for each size is not going to be the same. So there's a stack of numbers that you have to go. So you need to go through and mark all your numbers so that you don't accidentally read the wrong number. So that means I'd go here, I'd go, this is now the third size in, or the second one in the parentheses, and I would go through and sit here and just copy, highlight all my numbers. So now here we are in the actual pattern. And so there's 1, 2, this is the third size here. And here's another stack of numbers. That's the first size too. This is the third size. There's another stack, another stack. So you're just going to do this, and you're going to go through and mark all your numbers so that you'll not make a mistake. It's so easy to read the wrong number. I mean, you've got 9, 9, 10, 11, 11, 12. Okay, so you're the only 10, but it's easy just to have the wrong number. So go through the whole pattern and highlight your numbers. So you would also do this all on the back of this, okay? So the next thing you're going to do is you're going to sort of read through the pattern. Yeah, look at that. Okay, you're going to read through the pattern a little bit. I know if you're a beginner, this is like reading a foreign language, which is actually what it is. It is a foreign language. So you are learning a new language. And so, but it helps just to sort of read it a little bit and see if you can get your brain around it a little bit, and how you're doing the back. And you're starting down here, and you're going to knit up to here. So this is just all going, no big deal. And then you've got to start shaping, and then you've got to start shaping. Okay, and it says armhole shaping. So that's when you get up here to the armhole, you're gonna have to indent a little bit. And neck shaping, that's getting this all correct. All right, then down here, they put, these are their abbreviations. This is the stingiest little abbreviation I've seen in a long time. Usually the abbreviations look more like this. But this is a company, Plymouth Yarn. This is a company pattern. So page, like this would be a handout page that they would give us for this pattern. So it needs to all be on one pattern, on one page. It has to be on one page. So then they have to take shortcuts. This is how they take shortcuts, is they shorten things up. But anyway, your abbreviations are down here. And like, so you got bind off, you got cast on. A lot of these, you got a purl, continue, decrease, increase. There's a marker, remaining. See, they put a lot of things. Repeat, right side, slip, SSK. Together through the back loop. Oh, that's still the SSK. Okay, stitches, stockinette stitches, together, wrap and turns. Okay, now I have a feeling this is all of the the abbreviations you're going to find in their patterns, because there's a lot of these that are not in this pattern. So this is just a generic, these are our abbreviations. And it's a good idea to sort of get down the basic ones that are pretty standardized, which this is sort of pretty standardized. There might be a couple things in here, but this is pretty standardized. So you should know what WS means, what RS means, right side, wrong side. SSK, SKP, knit 2 together, knit 4 together, knit anything together. Markers, cast on. Markers can be an M. PM is place markers. SM is slip markers, depending on who you're reading, what pattern you're reading. But it's good to start getting those abbreviations down so that, yeah. So then, oh, hold on. Okay, so then when you're buying yarn, you need to look at these materials here. And what's important with the yarn, this is the yarn they used, all right, 100 gram hank in this color. The gauge on that yarn is, and the materials is, and the needle size, this is the gauge for our stuff. So the gauge is 12 stitches equals 4 inches. So that does not mean you cast on 12 stitches and you knit a gauge swatch that's 4 inches. That's just telling you what the gauge is. You really need to be casting on like 30 stitches. Almost always it's 30 stitches unless you're on really big needles, and then you can go down to 20 or something. But you always cast on 30 stitches. You knit at least 3 inches. You should bind it off and block it 4 inches, bind it off and block it. Most people don't end up doing that part, but there may be times I'm really like going to say, yeah, you got to do that because the yarn's going to change a lot when we block it. This new yarn that we've got, which is a cotton linen blend, this is something you have to block because it feels linen when it's not been washed and dried, feels a little bit like string. It's not like cozy knitting like other things, but once you block it and dry it, it becomes this beautiful drapey fabulous thing. So this is one thing that you would have to block it before you measured out your swatch, because it's going to change. So, and plant fibers, period, plant fibers tend to stretch, so you sort of need to check that out. And because they have no stretch to them, they do move a little bit differently, very differently actually, than the animal fibers do. So that's when you would need to block and check out, and then check your gauge. And then you're measuring the 4 inches in the middle of the block. So you're trying to stay away from edges, and you're measuring at least, try to measure 4 inches. If you can measure, if you can only do 3 inches, then do 3 inches. And then you'll just divide however many stitches you have in there. Let's say you have 10 stitches, no, it won't be, it'll be like 20 stitches, and you divide that by 3. And 21, you divide that by 3, and you have 7 stitches to the inch. All right, and that's, yeah. So that's, and you need to match the gauge. A half a stitch off on a gauge. If you've got 100 stitches on, a half a stitch means 50 stitches. And if you have 7 stitches equal an inch, then you've got, what is that, 7 inches. You just gained 7 inches. So blocking on something you're going to wear is really, really important, because a half a stitch actually makes a big difference when you're working with so many stitches in a row, you know. So that's the materials and stuff. Then so then you're just going to start here. Now the only other trick I'm going to get you to do, because once you've done this, you're fine, is you need to have something guiding you. I highly suggest you have a notebook at this point that you're writing in what your projects are. You'll give several pages to something like this, but you write what the pattern is, the needle size you did, the date you did it, and then just start writing down any of the notes, like what the measurements were on my block, on my gauge, how many stitches, what size am I using, what's the yarn I'm using, what's the needle I'm using. Yeah, all that information down. And then you can also, like, okay, for the back, you know, if you're going to make anything, like just any kind of notes that you like, oh, I got to figure that out. Or you had to look up SSK, write it down what SSK is. So you don't have to look it up again. It's in your notes right there. Okay. And if you don't have a notebook, you can always write on the pattern to make sure you're writing down. And especially the needle size. If you end up on a different size needle because of your gauge, then you make sure you write that down, because you won't remember it. And that also, then I would go through and look, because there's 2 needle sizes here. You're going to start with the smaller needle size, because there's a rib down here. So you're going to start with the 10. But if you're doing a 9 and a 10, then you're going to start with a 9. And so you need to write that down. So anything that you change, write it down, because let's say you put this away, you come back, you're not going to remember it. And if it's not written down, we're sort of screwed, you know. It's hard to backtrack stuff like that. So that's, I think, the basics of this. Finishing, yeah. So that's the basis of what all this is. Again, I would have marked all these down, the numbers. I would have highlighted anything that looks like it's a big deal. I keep this with me so that I can do that. Repeated things, this doesn't really have repeated things, but if there's repeated, like repeat from the star to the star or something like that, I mark repeated sections so that I can see them easily. And then finishing. And yes, anything you do like this, you're going to block, all right? So you can steam block it. I have a steam blocker that I use now that's amazing, because you can go like this in water. So they've enclosed the steamers basically for clothes. And so you don't drip water. So you can actually pin it down and steam it. And steaming works pretty well for almost everything, except if it's any kind of color work, if it's any kind of lace, if it's any kind of cabling, you're going to want to wet block it, which means you're going to soak it just in water is fine. If it's at all like a woolly wool, put a touch of conditioner into the water, like hair conditioner, because this is animal hair. So it does soften it up and a lot. But if it's already, if it's alpaca or something, don't do it. It's already soft enough. You don't need to do it. So block it, and then you're going to pin it out to the size you want and let it dry. All right. Put a fan on it if you can. If you got a portable fan to blow on it, that helps a lot. Get it to dry faster. So that's how you're going to start a pattern. And again, the first thing you're going to do is you're going to knit a swatch. And please, please knit a swatch. It's so worth the time to know that what you're about to make is going to fit you. And the other thing, which you hear me say all the time, is try it on as you go. Now, this is bottom up. So this is harder to try on. Even though it's a circle, it's still harder to try on. But you have a garment that you measured this against. So I would lay it flat on my garment, or I'd measure the width of it to make sure the width of this is the same as the width of this. So, but check it as you go. Don't just think and hope and pray that it's going to fit, because you're really going to stop knitting on it, because it's no fun sitting there knitting on something going, I don't think this is going to be fit. I don't know if this is right. I don't know if this is right. You're going to stop knitting on it because it's stressful. So take the time to try it on, especially top down. Take the time to try it on. It's a lot of stitches you got to get on thread or a different needle. Take the time to try it on. So I think that's it for just basic beginning of patterns. And this, again, is just a very simple pattern. So there's not a whole lot you have to do. There's other patterns that are much more construction complicated, and there may be more you need to do. But this is the basis that'll get you going and keep you on the right track. All right, and that's it for today. And yeah, come in. We're busy. We're really busy, which is really, really fun to be so busy, but we're really busy. And so come in and join in the fun and get ready to knit summer stuff. It's coming up, summer stuff. Yay. And socks are the best summer project ever. Even though you're knitting wool, you don't feel like it. And it's just this tiny thing that is not in your lap. And I knit socks in the summer. They're fabulous in the summer. So hope to see you in the studio real soon. Bye.